Hello everybody, my name is Franklin, and today we're going to talk about part 1 on how to focus on learning a language. Again, my name is Franklin, and this is First1000hours.com.
Don't give up on your language learning marathon. You can make it. You can make it through your first 1,000 hours.
I want to say hello to the language learning lover. I'm glad that you're here in the live chat, and I'm really excited to be able to share some of these concepts with you. I know that you like to look at and study about organization, so I think you're going to really like this as well today. So let's go ahead and get right into the presentation. Okay, so today we're talking about how to focus on learning a language, and so I just want to share some principles that I think you're going to be liking. And hello Roberto, I'm glad that you're able to come here today. This is actually going to be part 1. I thought I was going to do all of this in one session, but we'll do more than that, and please feel free to ask me any questions as well, and I'm glad that you were able to come to the live stream as well, Roberto. Okay, so I have 2 very challenging questions to ask you, and you might wonder how in the world does this relate to focus on learning a language, but you'll understand as we go on with this presentation. Number 1, do you have a regular time for getting up and going to bed? Now, this is very challenging because these are things that I actually struggle with myself, okay? And then the other question I have for you is, does everything in your house have a specific place? Okay, so I remember with the first question, someone actually was relating a story of how someone was talking to someone else that person knew. And so that person was talking about maybe plans that person had for business and things like that. And so someone asked him the question, do you have a regular time for getting up and going to bed? And so what does that have to do with anything? I want to show you a principle here from the Bible. And it says, he that is faithful in that which is least is also faithful in much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. So we're talking about principles. If we're talking about 1,000 hours, one of the first things we need to do is we need to look at this in small components, okay? And so it's important for us to look at how is our day, because if we want to do this big thing, we need to look at how our day is going. And this is something that I've been doing myself. And I'm looking at what Language Learning Lover says. It says, I have a regular time, but don't ask me but don't ask me if I stick to it. So that's like me. I've talked about my struggles as well on this channel many times with going to sleep at a regular time. Okay, so let's continue. So this is it. This is the main question. If our days don't have a fixed purpose, then how will our 1,000 hours in language learning have a fixed purpose as well? So before we do this big thing of thinking about 1,000 hours, we have to have a fixed purpose on a continual basis in our day-to-day life. And so I want to share some of these quotes that I thought was really cool. I'm reading a book called Christ Object Lessons, or I'm going over it. I already read it, but I should show this to you. Sorry, I've been just showing you the presentation, but I need to show you my face too. This is a book that I like. It's called Palabras de Vida del Gran Maestro. Some of you have already known that I've read this book, but I go over the chapter on the talents every year. I was supposed to do that in January, but I'm actually doing that in February. And this is one of the quotes from that book because it's also in English. It says, an ordinary mind well disciplined. So I want to stop there because sometimes we can say, all right, well, I'm not as talented as person over there that I see on YouTube that's spoken in in Chinese, and it's gotten up to a high level. But look at this quote again. I actually need to put this on the screen, right? It says, an ordinary mind well disciplined will accomplish more and higher work than the most highly educated mind and the greatest talents without self-control. So I think a lot about the first 1,000 hours has to deal with time management. And that's why I'm even spending some time talking about this today, because we can accomplish a lot even if we're not like an Einstein or a genius or whatever, but it's going to really depend somewhat, at least, on how we use our time. So let's continue. I want to show you another quote here. It says, success in any line demands a definite aim. And this is why I like talking in terms of 1,000 hours. This is something that's specific. Okay, it's not something that's ambiguous. And I just want to show you another quotation as well that I thought was pretty cool about someone that's pretty well known. It says this: persons who have not acquired habits of close industry and economy of time should have set rules to prompt them to regularity and dispatch. George Washington was enabled to perform a great amount of business because he was thorough in preserving order and regularity. Every paper had its date and its place, and no time was lost in looking up what had been mislaid. Men of God must be diligent in study, earnest in the acquirement of knowledge, never wasting an hour. Have you wasted an hour? I surely have. Okay, so I'm telling you, this is something that I need to work on. It says, through persevering exertion, they may rise to almost any degree of eminence as Christians, as men of power and influence. But many will never attain a superior rank in the pulpit or in business because of their what? Their unfixedness of purpose and the laxness of habits contracted in their youth. Careless inattention is seen in everything they undertake. So, if we want to go high in language learning, then we have to have a fixed purpose. And so this is definitely something that I believe that we can relate. I can relate to as a Christian and all this, but this even goes into business. This even goes, and I think applies to language learning. So I want to talk to you not only about all this theory, but I want to make some of these things practical as well and tell you some of the things that I've struggled with, like what my struggle with organization and how that applies to even struggling to get more time with language learning. So I have this little picture of a washer machine, and so I want to talk about laundry piles. Now, I don't know if anybody can relate to this, and it's okay if you can't. But this is really tacky. Something that is really tacky that I've done, and I've had no problem with it, no issue with it in one sense, is I stay in my duplex. I'm just by myself, right? And so when my clothes are dry, for the most part, what I have done is I just put my clothes into a plastic bag and then I just put it in my closet. And then I get another pile of clothes and then I'll do the same thing. So I don't hang them up, and it's like, why hang them up? I don't need to hang up my clothes, right? And so some of my clothes are hung up, but I'm saying like the clothes that come out of the dryer, I don't need to really hang it up because I can just do it at another time. And so what happens is that when it comes for me to actually maybe have my work clothes or something like that, I'm scrambling to try to find out where are my clothes, and I have to look through all these different bags of piles of clean clothes, but it's just jumbled. And so the 10 minutes or so that it takes me to find out where my clothes are, I could have been spending that in my language learning. So I just wasted time. And I don't know if that's like you, where you have things where you might not have things put in the proper place, and then you just waste time that you could have spent on 1,000 hours. And so I think sometimes it's not a lack of time that allows us to have this whole 1,000-hour focus. It's more of a lack of organization. All right, so that's one thing I wanted to share about my struggle. I want to share some other things, not having a plan for the day. So I can tell you about this. I have many times, I kind of have like an idea of what I want to do in my mind, but then when I come home, especially after work, I don't know exactly what I want to do exactly. I know I want to probably go on YouTube, kind of look at my YouTube analytics, maybe look at some YouTube videos or whatever, but then there's other things for me to do. So, okay, could you listen to audio when folding your clothes? I just saw what you said, Roberto. Yeah, you can listen to that. Yeah, of course. So that is how you can actually increase the time that you are being able to contact with the language. So I like to do that. Even when I drive, I like to listen to things sometimes, in language learning. I need to actually get another headphone, but I have done that as well to be more efficient. So yes, that is an excellent question, and you can do some things like that. But I'm talking about, um, just being disorganized in a way where if I was more efficient, like if my closet had my work clothes in it, then I could just go get my work clothes and keep on going. And then I might have been able in the morning to say, okay, well, I'm going to, after my worship, I'm going to maybe read this book for 10 minutes because I saved 10 minutes because my my clothes were organized because I had everything in the closet ready to go. All right, so what I also was saying is like I haven't had a plan for the day. Sometimes I have like a general outlook, like of what I think I want to do, but then I come back and I don't know exactly what I want to do. So then I wanted to do things like exercise. I might have wanted to do things like maybe even read part of this book, but then sorry, I need to go like this. But then the day finishes and I have maybe not done this or something like that because I didn't know how much time I didn't have. So what I have tried to do now is I have this planner. And so I've experimented writing down things the night before, praying about that, writing things down. And then when I do that and then I write down the actual times where I want to accomplish things, then when I come back from work, I'm like, whoa, I actually don't have that much time that I thought I had because if I want to exercise, if I want to clean, if I want to spend some time reading this book and all that, then I actually cannot just randomly just do a lot of different things when I come home from work. And then that actually allows me to accomplish more. And so I really like the fact I don't like cleaning, but I like the fact that I'm like, okay, well, when I come home from work, I want to make sure I clean some parts of my house or whatever. So I was able to do that. I was able to, exercise, and then I still had time to dedicate about 45 minutes to reading this book. And even on Sunday, sometimes I have a lot of things I want to do as well. Like I want to do some YouTube research and things like that. I want to be able to, I don't know. I like to look at how to grow a YouTube channel. I really focus on that. But because I was able to think about a plan for my day, I was able to go to the park and I was able to read this book for 2 hours. So I had the sunshine, the nice sunshine. I got the fresh air, and I was able to read this book. So if I didn't think about my day, I probably wouldn't have had 2 hours to put into having the contact with Spanish. All right, I want to show you another problem here. No regular bedtime. This has been a big issue for myself, but the reason why people I think have regular bedtimes is not because of just wanting to go to bed at a certain time. It's because they have organization in their life. It's because they have been able to accomplish different things and they kind of know how the day is going to flow, I believe, a little bit. And so then it's easier to say, okay, well, now I need to go to bed because I know tomorrow I have something to do. I have more things to accomplish and all of that. But when we don't take all of those things in account, then we don't have that regular bedtime. Then we might not get up on time, at a certain time. So then we could have maybe used the morning time to have that contact with the language, but now we're trying to get ready for work and all these other things, and then the day just passes us by, and then we just go on and keep on doing things like that, and then we don't have the focus to have that actual contact with the language that we're trying to learn. Does that make sense? All right, so I wanted to really, hit home that importance of not only just thinking about language learning. I know that there's a lot of people that talk about a language routine, but hey, if your laundry's not done, right? If your bathroom's not clean like it should be, if your kitchen, if your dishes aren't organized and all of these things, then you're basically trying to learn a language in a disorganized way or not in as efficient way as it could be because you have other things that should be done that if you do them, then you have more contact with the language. All right, so I want to continue on this presentation, and I thought I was going to go into to the specific hours, but I'm going to save that for part 2. But this is a question as well that I think is important to ask, and this is important to think about when it comes to the hours that we put in, into the focus that we have in our 1,000 hours. Okay, so the question is, if you are running a language learning marathon, right, should you sweat or should you not sweat? So let me just make this a little bit practical here. Let's say that you're preparing for a marathon. You're trying to think about the coach that you should have to help you with preparing for an actual literal marathon. Now you have Coach A, well, let's say Coach Anderson, okay? Coach Anderson says that, hey, I have this program for you. All you have to do is spend 5 minutes or 15 minutes a day, and you don't have to sweat. All you have to do is just go through this program, and it's going to be easy. There's, that's all you have to do. And then you have another person, and let's say it's Coach Franklin, okay? And Coach Franklin, what I do is I tell you, hey, in order for you to actually get ready for a marathon, you're going to have to sweat. You're going to have to challenge yourself. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be the same as walking, because the level of intensity is going to have to increase, because you're going to have to you're going to have to experience a marathon. So you have two different people saying two different things, and the question is, who are you going to listen to? Now let's make this in terms of a language learning marathon. There are programs out there, and I could call out the names. I'm not sure if I want to do that, but there was one really big program that many people use that was saying that you could learn a language in 5 minutes a day. I didn't believe that, because I had looked at how long it takes to learn a language, and that basically was not true. Okay, and then there's another popular language learning program out there that says that you can learn a language in 15 minutes a day. And so what happens is people sometimes, I think, okay, whoa, I can learn a language, or I can run a language learning marathon and prepare for a marathon, basically, by spending just a little bit of time. I can do it in an easy way. I don't have to challenge myself and all of these things. And so that will be reflective in how the intensity will be when it comes to language learning. And what I would say is that you are going to have to sweat. You are going to have to challenge yourself. And there's different reasons why I say that, and I'll show you some of those reasons on this presentation, okay? So let's continue. Sorry about that. One other thing before I get there is there's this idea on Duolingo, I believe, and I guess I'm going to just talk about Duolingo a little bit, of getting excited about these long streaks. I'm talking about like 1,000-day streak or 2,000-day streak on Duolingo, which the Duolingo Spanish Tree is a beginner Spanish program, right? And so I was just thinking about training wheels. I should have actually had a picture of training wheels, but I want to give this illustration real quick. Let's say that you have a son or a daughter, and that son or daughter is trying to ride a bike, and they have training wheels for their bicycle. Are you going to be happy for that son or daughter to be on training wheels for 1,000 days or 2,000 days? I wouldn't be happy for that. But we get excited sometimes when people are on training wheel programs basically for a long period of time. And I'm not saying that it's good that people are consistent with that, and consistent with contact with the language. That's what I should say. But there has to be a point where you get off of a beginner course and you go into real contact with the language. So I want to